A couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, Scott Bessent said, hey, the inflation rate is lower in red states than in blue states by half a percentage point. One thing Americans could do if they want to beat high prices is move from a blue state to a red state. And we did the numbers. And basically what Scott Bessent was proposing was for a savings of $25 a month, uproot your family to a state that on average pays lower salaries, has inferior education, and less access to healthcare. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Bessent is back on this kick, and he was interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin at some event, and he again says affordability is more of a problem in blue states. And again, he's missing the forest for the trees. So let's look at the clip, and then I want to talk about it.
You've been talking about is that the regional presidents you think actually are not as independent unto themselves that you want.
Well, no. I think when I was on Squawk Box last week, Becky said, "Well, Susan Collins at the Boston Fed says this," and that her people in her district are having an affordability problem. I should have said, well, she's in a red state. Affordability is worse. In a blue state, affordability is worse than a blue state.
We can debate that, but keep going.
No, there's no debate. The number 50 basis points higher inflation, the 10 highest inflation rates they are in blue cities, but
Just so you know, because I went to look at this, this is the Joint Economic Committee, since 2021. The highest inflation of the past 4 years has been in red states, especially Florida.
I'm talking about current.
Current. Not over the past 4 years.
Right. Today.
Okay. I would think 4 years would be a reasonable trend line to look at.
Today it is 50 basis points higher. So anyway, and look, the people are voting with their feet. I have the American people on my side. That New York, Illinois, California, Massachusetts are depopulating.
And they're going to places in Florida, like Florida, where interest rates are I'm saying inflation's up 22% over the last 4 years.
Well, inflation is up 25% nationally, so it's lower.
I believe in New York it was 19%.
Sorry?
I believe in New York it was 19%.
I don't think that's right.
We can go through the math.
For Republicans who love to talk about the free market and supply and demand, who seem to understand there's a reason why Rolex watches are expensive or Mercedes vehicles are expensive. They always conveniently miss or ignore that to a degree, blue states are more expensive because there is, on average, more demand and people make more money in those blue states. So it is true that on average, the cost of living is higher in blue states than in red states. That's not a lie. But you have to understand that wages are dramatically higher on average in blue states. If wages are higher, there is a willingness to pay more for housing or other expenses, which leads to higher prices. If you have more jobs and more economic opportunity in blue states on average, that is going to lead to a higher cost of living, still to the benefit of those who are earning higher salaries and have access to better health care and better education. If you look at the cost of delivering better public services and infrastructure, of course that is going to be reflected in how expensive it is to live in a particular state. But there are benefits to that. Labor standards are better, more worker protections, better public services, amenities are more desirable, public schools are better, public transit is better, a culture is on average more rich. All of this stuff creates a demand to live in some of these places, and it pushes prices up. That's the way it works because people are willing. This is market talk. This is basic market talk. People are willing to pay more to live in places with more opportunity. Now, what we see as a result of that, or in conjunction with that, is that salaries on average are significantly higher in blue states. The schools are better. Healthcare access is better. Health outcomes are better. Longevity, life expectancy is higher. Infrastructure and transportation is better. Access to high-speed internet is more widespread. There's more social safety nets, more innovation, more tech, more knowledge-based jobs. And so there are caveats there, but it's really weird that Besant, who claims to be, a champion of the free market, doesn't seem to understand the effect of supply and demand here. Now, let me give you some of the caveats. Even though people make more in the more expensive blue states, that doesn't benefit everyone equally. We still have inequality in blue states. Affordability is a problem in blue states. There's no question about that. Quality of services. You can look at blue states. You look at places like Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. You look at the statewide averages, and the metrics in those states are very similar to some of the highest quality of life European countries. But within the states, it's often way better in the urban areas, in the cities, Boston, Providence, Hartford, etc., and not so good in the more rural areas of those states. There's still a disparity there. That's something we have to deal with. It's not perfect. The other aspect of this that I think is important is that short-term inflation can look different than longer-term cost of living. And those are two different things that are conflated, and Scott Bessent isn't delving into that. But I wish that these champions of the free market would recognize sometimes things are more expensive because of demand and people willing to pay more for them. That's the principle that they champion and espouse in so many areas, but then they shut off that part of their brain, conveniently so, when it comes to the fact that, yes, blue states on average cost more, but people make way more money. Let me know what you think about this.